Arab Tov Chavrim. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. This morning we shared with you roughly information, the video they had made of Foreign Minister Lavrov and his comments that with NATO's chief Jens Stoltenberg in the meeting in Munich, Germany. And very tense situation. And although RT kind of projected this information as more of a kind of a humorous tone with Foreign Minister Lavrov, clearly it is not so much a humorous tone. And we're going to get into that in just a moment with an article that RT has put out that I think is very concerning, and also kind of just do a little look at what's going on around Europe, around the world as well, and the buildup of tensions that is clearly on the edge of a third world war, if we're not already in that. Let's listen here real quick again. Prime Minister Lavrov clearly identifying that NATO negotiates using force.
I'm glad that NATO is still interested in talking to us. And look forward to discussing some practical things.
But we are strongly in favor of dialogue with Russia.
I know.
And
from the position of force.
From a predictable and predictable position.
Now, if you notice, Prime Minister Lavrov said from a position of force. Jens Stoltenberg came back, like I said, caught him off guard, and he said from a predictable position. That letting him know as well that yes, if it means force, we're willing to use force. Now, as we begin to look on an article by RT that was published today, Lavrov, NATO expansion led to tensions in Europe unprecedented in the last 30 years. I found it very interesting because Foreign Minister Lavrov did not make any mincing of words in his statements today at this meeting to NATO here in Munich, Germany. And I think it's worth reading some of this information because it clearly set the stage, and it also lets NATO know that Russia, although they're not looking for a confrontation, is not going to back down either. Anyway, it says NATO's expansion has led to an unprecedented level of tensions over the last 30 years in Europe, judging by some statements made at the security conference. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, speaking in Munich. It was also stated here, we need to resume military cooperation. And yet NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, surrounded by his deputies yesterday, couldn't say that NATO is ready for this. It's sad, Lavrov said. So see, Russia is constantly reaching out a hand, trying to work again with their European partners. That was part of the cooperation between the United States and Russia, that they would both cooperatively work together. Is what he's speaking about as far as military cooperation and the protection of the European Union. Russia is not looking for conflicts with anyone, but will always be able to protect its interests, the diplomat also stated. What kind of relationship do we want with the U.S.? One based on pragmatism, mutual respect, and understanding a special responsibility for global stability, he stated. Citing a message from one of the most influential 19th century Russian diplomats to his American counterpart, which said that in any conflict, interests could be harmonized through justice and modesty. Lavrov said the same approach could strengthen the modern world. Another statement that was mentioned as well by Foreign Minister Lavrov, if everyone adapts that approach, we could overcome the period of post-truth fast and resist information wars imposed on international community, he stated. He also stated, they say that all wars begin in the minds of people. And by this logic, that's where they are supposed to come to an end. However, this hasn't been the case with the Cold War yet. At least judging by some speeches of the politicians in Europe and in the U.S., including statements that were made yesterday and today and at the beginning of our conference, something that Lavrov noted in these remarks here. He also stated here, a comment from Russia and the West to jointly provide security based on respect for each other's interests and enhance mutual trust, prevent a split in the Euro-Atlantic area, and to erase the dividing lines formed the basis of these documents, the Russian foreign minister stated as well. The whole point of the conversation that we were able to ascertain in watching the statements by Foreign Minister Lavrov is that Russia is willing to work with NATO, with the United States, in particularly with President Trump. But at the same token, there is a lot of tone coming out of the United States, and I know he's pointing to John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham, as well as other in the Democratic side, and of course Republican as well, McCain being a Republican and not a Democrat. But we see a major division in the United States government over how the quote-unquote issue with Russia should be handled. And even Europe, there's a major divide. We have those like Ms. Le Pen, who's running for president of France, who is strongly opposed to all these sanctions against Russia and realizes that this is baseless to begin with. There are others also in Germany that are counter to that of Merkel, believing that the sanctions are completely wrong to be done against Russia. And then we have the other side of the coin. We have Merkel, we have Jens Stoltenberg, we have other leaders, Mr. Holland in France, that are clearly in favor of the sanctions and believing that Russia is the great aggressor of the situations that are going on inside of Ukraine. Clearly, this is not the case. We know for a fact that Russia was not the one that instigated the Ukraine crisis. We know that Ukraine, the coup that began there was not orchestrated by Russia. However, we do see that the former President Yanukovych had invited Russia in to try to salvage the country, even inviting them in, found by the actual Ukrainian. Goodness, my brain, too many things at one time going on in my brain there. The Ukrainian prosecutor, state's prosecutor, found the document claiming that Yanukovych had actually invited Russia in to help with the crisis inside the country. Now, Russia did go after Crimea, but they did not do so with eastern Ukraine so much. But that's even changing now. After Foreign Minister Lavrov made this meeting today in Munich, Germany, and yesterday in Munich, Germany, then we find out that the Kremlin has released an executive order recognizing documents issued to Ukrainian citizens and stateless persons living in certain districts of Ukraine's Donetsk and Luhansk regions. They are now accepting the marriage certificates, driver's license, all types of documentations that is coming out of eastern Ukraine, as if eastern Ukraine is indeed already its own entity, its own separate government. Russia is now accepting these documents as legal, and that is another step forward. Now, Russia also said that under Foreign Minister Lavrov, that Russia will not lift sanctions on Europe either, tit for tat, so to speak, until the Minsk agreement is agreed upon. And after these meetings here, even with this executive order signed by President Putin today, recognizing all these documents inside of eastern Ukraine, they even were able to come to an agreement to bring back the Minsk agreement accords according to both sides. Germany, Russia, all agreed upon this. The NATO partners there, they have agreed to put pressure on Ukraine to pull back this heavy armaments that are being used on the people of Donetsk and Luhansk regions there, all the way down to Mariupol, all these attacks that are being placed there to the Ukrainian citizens to the eastern side of Ukraine that have also declared their independence from Ukraine itself. So Russia also agreeing to pull the leverage on the Donetsk and Luhansk regions there to get them to back off as well. But our point in bringing these things out with what Foreign Minister Lavrov is saying in the Minsk agreements, as well as in the Munich conversations that we're seeing that are going on there, is that Foreign Minister Lavrov clearly is showing the tense buildup, the situations that are going on. And we see this even from continual movements of the United States military. And whether or not it's President Trump authorizing these moves, or if this is the military just making the moves because it's something that was already pre-planned, we're seeing things continue to move. Now the United States has moved military vehicles from California to Alaska, something new that had just came up. Another thing here that I wanted to share with you here, and pardon the music on that there. This is a a glimpse of war exercises going on with South Korea. Other nations were involved there. They're doing landing exercise with U.S. Marines there. No doubt getting ready to deal with North Korea. So it looks like at the very least, even if we don't see a world war break out with Russia and NATO, which looks like we might be able to avert that. That's the good news of all of this. Looks like we might get to avert that. But clearly when it comes to North Korea, that doesn't look like anything's backing down, except that there's more than likely going to be an invasion there to topple the current regime and try to bring that under control. It looked like ants crawling along the beach there when we saw the soldiers that were coming out on there. Again, this was the U.S., Thai, and South Korean Marines conducting amphibious assault drills on Hat Yao Beach in Sattahip, Thailand. And also another one that I wanted to share with you, the U.S. Army soldiers, tanks, and M88 recovery vehicles from the 1st Battalion, 8th Infantry Regiment have arrived in Coghlan Sinu Air Base in Romania. Again, more and more equipment still pouring into Romania. These are the type things that make Russia uneasy. We already have it all through the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We have unbelievable amounts of troops in Poland, even troops in Norway. On Russia's northern border, the United States has moved in the F-35s into Japan, which easily could be used for situation with North Korea. But then again, it could be used for Russia as well if that's the way things were to turn. Now Romania, we've been seeing the buildups with Romania more and more, faster and faster. Tanks, everything being moved there, troops, etc. So it makes for a majorly tense situation, and somebody has got to back off, because if they don't, this could easily spiral out of control. Don't forget, Russia has their Zapad war games coming up in Belarus in just a couple of months away. That being involving, at least last year, 120,000 Russian soldiers were involved in that particular exercise. That's bigger than what the U.S. has there already. So it's very concerning to see this type of equipment, troop movement. Also, NATO, I believe, is planning an exercise right around the same time. If anybody flinches, anybody messes up during these exercises, things could explode and ignite very rapidly. And once that happens, it's not very easy to cool off the tempers at that point there. Anyway, so we hope for the best of all these things, and again, it seems like that at least they're sitting down, they're negotiating, although a very tense negotiations, but it does seem like that there could be some light at the end of the tunnel here, and maybe we can see some simmering down of tensions. By the way, though, Ukraine, there's supposed to be a ceasefire on Monday, or at least I should say not so much a ceasefire, but a pulling back of the heavy weapons on Monday. But even as we speak, Ukraine has been heavily bombarding again Donetsk, and there was last word that we caught actually on Mikhail's channel here is that they were planning an attack from 3 different directions. So Ukraine is trying to gain headway before they agree to anything on Monday. Very troubling situation in Ukraine. As I said, the gates of Europe are burning down. I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live.